All right, everybody. What's going on? Peace and blessings to everyone. Welcome to another episode of Nick's Knowledge and Notions in Cube Science Series, brought to you by the Seven Spheres of Money. Thank you for watching us, and joining the program. And before we get started, go ahead and like the video, share it with everyone you know, and go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel, the Seven Spheres of Money on YouTube. We are a little bit over 800 subscribers. Help us to get to 1,000 subscribers so our message can get out to everyone. The message, the good news of the pom-pom lifestyle, plenty of money, peace of mind, and financial freedom. So if you look at the title of the video, well, before we even get to the title of the video, you see me here on the screen by myself. DJ has been working extremely hard ever since the new year started, even going into the new year. If you know DJ even worked through the last weeks of December, which he normally doesn't do, because his birthday falls on Christmas Eve during that time. So DJ has been extremely busy. To use his words, he's busier than a one-legged man in a butt kicking contest, to use his words. So yeah, DJ's been working hard, helping a lot of our people, over the past few weeks. So I decided to give him the night off, give him a break, because he's been helping a lot of people and doing a lot of great work. So this is a business. He is a licensed professional, but this work is also a service, which is especially important and relevant to this topic in this show. So with that being said, like I was beginning to say, you could take a look at the title there. It says to know MLK is to read MLK. And one of the most important things we do when we observe the life and honor the Honorable Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is we do service to others. And later on in this show, you'll realize why that's especially important for the work that we do here at the Seven Spheres of Money. So the Monday, January 17th marks the day that we observe Martin Luther King, the federal holiday where, our children are off from school. A lot of us are off from work. Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday is actually on January 15th. So at the time of this live recording, it's Friday, January 14th. So tomorrow on the 15th is Dr. King's actual birthday on Saturday. And then on the 17th is the day that we observe the holiday. So to break down this title, to know MLK is to read MLK, it takes me back to one of my college professors. So oftentimes when we're in our classrooms or when we're watching mainstream media and they're discussing Dr. King, we're giving the sanitized, cleaned up version of Dr. King. We're often given the redundant details about Dr. King. We're often told about the "I have a dream" speech. We often talk about integration, but there's a lot of other aspects of Dr. King that we don't discuss that may not be deemed acceptable to mainstream media. So the best way, so what my professor told us was the best way to know Dr. King is to read what Dr. King wrote. So that's what I will be getting into for this show for a brief moment. I'll be getting into what Dr. King wrote, and you may be surprised about what you learn in terms of Dr. King's perspectives on what was going on in the country during this time. And a lot of what he wrote about is prophetic, because it's still relevant to today. So I'll be bringing up, some of that commentary that he gave, focusing specifically on his last book that he published before his untimely death, before he passed away in 1968. And this book was published in 1968. This is Where Do We Go Here? Chaos or Community by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and go through some of these important passages and some of this important commentary that Dr. King gave during this time that's relevant to what this nation and what this world is going through at this moment. So this is a time, after the assassination of Malcolm X. This is during the time where the Black Power movement was first starting to emerge and become popular. So Dr. King writes at length about the Black Power movement. He gives his critiques, he gives his contentions, what he agrees with. So it's very interesting and it's very important for us to learn about. So we're going to talk a bit about Black Power. And we're also going to talk a bit about Dr. King's commentary on economics and politics too. So starting in chapter 1, Dr. King begins his commentary on Black Power. And he writes on page 18 in this version of the book that Black Power has proved to be a slogan without a program and with an uncertain following. If it is true that the controversy is not yet resolved, it is also true that no new alternatives to nonviolence within the movement have found viable expression. Confusion has been created, but extensive despair and dissipation of fighting strength have not occurred. So I want to bring your attention to the first part of that quote. Black Power has proved to be a slogan without a program and with an uncertain following. And I thought that quote was important because this is something that we're seeing in this day and age with maybe not so much of Black Power. I don't know if Black Power is a term that's being used often, in recent years, but we are living in the age of catchphrases and slogans, and with social media hashtags, and a lot of our social issues, when it comes to race, when it comes to economics, when it comes to social justice, when it comes to the law, a lot of these issues have been watered down or limited to hashtags in the same way that Dr. King has expressed that Black Power was proven to be a slogan without a program. So we have a lot of hashtags these days without programs. So that was something that was certainly prophetic. Now we know that the term Black Power was made popular by Stokely Carmichael around this time. Of course, the term was used long before Stokely Carmichael made it popular, but we know he made it popular, and him and Charles B. Hamilton elaborated on this idea of Black Power in his book, Black Power, The Politics of Liberation. So let's see what else Dr. King says about Black Power. Dr. King goes into, in chapter 2, Dr. King goes into a conversation that he's had with Stokely Carmichael about Black Power and about some of his challenges with the slogan Black Power and its meaning and its programs. So one of the issues or challenges that Dr. King had with the term Black Power was the connotation of it. He felt that the connotation carried a violent meaning to it. Denotatively, like if you look up the definition in the dictionary of Black and power, or if you define Black power, it wasn't necessarily something or an idea that was tied to violence. But when people hear the phrase Black power, Dr. King was concerned that it would be associated with violence. So in response to that, Stokely Carmichael replied by saying that the question of violence versus nonviolence was irrelevant. The real question was the need for Black people to consolidate their political and economic resources to achieve power. Power, he said, is the only thing respected in this world, and we must get it at any cost. Then he looked at Dr. King and said, "Martin, you know as well as I do that practically every other ethnic group in America has done just this. The Jews, the Irish, and the Italians did it. Why can't we?" Then Dr. King responded, "That is just the point. No one has ever heard the Jews publicly chant a slogan of Jewish power, but they had power. Through group unity, determination, and creative endeavor, they have gained it. The same thing is true of the Irish and Italians. Neither group has used the slogan of Irish or Italian power, but they have worked hard to achieve it. This is exactly what we must do," Dr. King said. "We must use every constructive means to amass economic and political power. This is the kind of legitimate power we need. We must work to build racial pride and refute the notion that Black is evil and ugly. But this must come through a program, not merely through a slogan." Stokely insisted that the slogan itself was important. How can you arouse people to unite around a program without a slogan or as a rallying cry? Didn't the labor movement have slogans? Haven't we had slogans all along in the freedom movement? What we need is a new slogan with Black in it. Dr. King conceded the fact that we must have slogans. But why have one that would confuse our allies, isolate the Negro community, and give many prejudiced whites who might otherwise be ashamed of their anti-Negro feeling a ready excuse for self-justification? And Dr. King suggested, alternative slogans such as Black consciousness or Black equality. So even Stokely Carmichael, who helped popularize the phrase Black power, recognized the importance of economics and politics in defining what Black power is. And Dr. King also emphasized the importance of Black power, the importance of economics and politics in discussing Black power. So this is another aspect of Dr. King that many people might not know about. This is an aspect of Dr. King that isn't, when I was in school, it wasn't taught to me in school. When I watched programs on television or the mainstream media about Dr. King, his promotion, or I would say support of Black power and Black economic and Black political power wasn't something that was pushed to the forefront in terms of Dr. King's perspective. So that was another important passage that I found in this book. Where did we go here? Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? So from here, well, just to say one more thing about this selection from the text from this book. I mentioned that we're living in the time of hashtags, but we're also living in a time of symbolic victories. And this quote, it says that it requires work. It requires work to achieve real progress. And real work isn't just coming up with slogans or coming up with hashtags. You have to actually put your feet in the dirt, put your hands in the dirt, and actually put in some work. So I'm getting ready to go to a short commercial break, but when I come back, we will continue with our discussion of Dr. King and his last book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community, with further details on what Dr. King wrote about in regards to economics. So I'll be right back with Nick's Knowledge and Notions. Stay tuned.
So I just got off my consultation with DJ, the money coach. The reason I decided to get up with DJ was because I saw him on a couple different platforms, and he seemed like he really knew what he was talking about, and some of the things he said resonated with me, and that was confirmed.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. This is DJ, the money coach, coming to you from the 7 Spheres of Money system. On behalf of our family, we want to wish your family a safe and happy New Year. 2021 has been amazing. We are humbled by the generosity that you have shown us to allow us to come into your family and teach you how to become consumer debt free, increase your credit scores, open up businesses, and learn how to do the Pay Yourself First program. So we want to thank you and your family and wish everyone a happy and safe New Year's, and bring 2022 in with peace, prosperity, and good health. And we love the fact that you allowed us to earn your trust through the 7 Spheres of Money program. We have been humbled with record-breaking year, record-breaking months, and we could not have done it without you investing in us and allowing us to show you in 20 years and working with 25,000 people how we can help you become consumer debt free, have an 800 credit score, and create a pom-pom lifestyle with a 6-figure income by applying the 4 dirty little words. Number 1 is discipline. Number 2, accountability. Number 3, plug into the 7 Spheres of Money system. And number 4, put the work in. So if you got into debt overnight, you can get out of debt overnight. But if it took you 5 to 10 years like it did me, it's going to take 5 to 10 years to get you out of debt. So we're going to walk you through, and we're going to thank you. If you just bought our book, or if you actually invested in our executive membership program, or if you actually done major investments with us, we want to thank everybody from the bottom of our hearts and show you how much we appreciate your patronage and how much we appreciate you working with Melvin Hobson, our registered investment advisor of 18 years that we've worked together with, James Lane Jr., our CPA that we worked with for several years, our attorney, Lisa K. Shebar, who's been with us for 16 years, and also Nick Westbrooks, who's been with us from the beginning, who started just like you as a client of ours 3 years ago and now runs our whole complete operation. So we want to thank all of you from the bottom of our hearts. We want to wish you a happy and safe New Year's. And we want to bring you sincerely a pom-pom lifestyle foundation in 2022. And that's plenty of money and peace of mind. And we really want you to come join us on the Beaches of the World Club. And your beach may not be water and sand. It's wherever you find your tranquility and your peace of mind, and you can be 100% you without any debt and be not a second-rate citizen, but a first-class one through and through. I'm DJ, the Money Coach. We love you. God bless. Happy New Year.
All right, and welcome back to Nick's Knowledge and Notions NQ Science Series, brought to you by the 7 Spheres of Money. Again, like, share, and subscribe so we can get this message out. So tonight, on this episode, I've been dealing with the upcoming Martin Luther King Jr. holiday and just doing some reflections on his commentary. And as I said at the beginning of the show, and as you see in the title, the best way to truly know who Dr. King was and what he stood on was to read his writings. So read his books, read the things that he wrote, read his speeches. So on this segment, I'm just continuing on going through the book. Where do we go from here? And just pointing out important passages that the masses may not be aware of, and also passages that are in a way prophetic and speak to some of the challenges or some of the issues that this nation is experiencing right now. So I want to continue this conversation on Black power and what power is and what power isn't. So just dealing with the word power, Dr. King defined power as the ability to achieve purpose. You know, when this idea of power is properly understood, it is the strength required to bring about social, political, or economic changes. And again, emphasis on those latter two items, political or economic changes, because we often focus on the social part of it and kind of forget about the economic or the financial parts of economics. And also what Dr. King says about power is that what is needed is a realization that power without love is reckless and abusive, and that love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice. Justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love. There is nothing essentially wrong with power. The problem is that in America, power is unequally distributed. So in addition to power being unequally distributed, power used in the wrong way can be destructive. So I just wanted to point that out before we get back into Black power and Dr. King's commentary on what Black power is. So Black power has a heavy emphasis on economics. We talk about, this is the 7 spheres of money. We talk about personal finance. We talk about economics all the time. And Dr. King is aligned with economics. You know, he may be talking about economics on the grand scale instead of personal finance, but at the 7 spheres of money, we do promote cooperative economics and the pooling of resources. So this is what else Dr. King says about Black power in relation to economics. Black power is also a call for the pooling of Black financial resources to achieve economic security. While the ultimate answer to the Negro's economic dilemma will be found in the massive federal program for all the poor along the lines of A. Philip Randolph's freedom budget, a kind of Marshall Plan for the disadvantaged, there is something that the Negro himself can do to throw off the shackles of poverty. Although the Negro is still at the bottom of the economic ladder, his collective annual income is upwards of $30 billion. This gives him considerable buying power that can make the difference between profit and loss in many businesses. Powerful statement there. Powerful statement. So we hear about buying power of Black people in recent years, of how it's, in the trillions. At this time of this publication, late 60s, 1968, Dr. King marks the collective income upwards of $30 billion. But the important point here that we should look at in this passage is that, yeah, we can look to federal programs, we can look to stimulus money, we can look to social programs to help, to help us, but we can still pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and basically do the work. Something that we talk about here often on the 7 Spheres of Money is doing the work to reach financial or economic freedom. And also to say that we can't wait on or depend on these federal programs. We can't wait on, Washington to, while they play these political games, these politricks. We have to put in the work ourselves to free ourselves financially. So while Dr. King emphasized, economic freedom and economic empowerment and political empowerment, and how he criticized Black Power as just being a slogan, that doesn't take away or negate the fact that Dr. King saw importance of Black pride and reversing how Black people look at themselves and the ideas and things that are associated with Black. So in this book, Dr. King talks about the importance of pride and the importance of, reversing the negative ideas associated with Blackness. So he writes, this would be what chapter is this? This is still chapter 23, not 23. I'm looking at page 23. Still chapter 2, Dr. King's analysis on Black Power. This is what he writes about the word Black. The job of arousing manhood within a people that have been taught for so many centuries that they are nobody is not easy. Even semantics have conspired to make that which is Black seem ugly and degrading. In Roget's thesaurus, there are some 120 synonyms for Blackness, and at least 60 of them are offensive. That's half, 50%. Such words as blot, suit, grime, devil, and foul. These are all words associated with Blackness, negative terms associated with the word Black. There are some 134 synonyms for whiteness, and all are favorable, expressed in such words as purity, cleanliness, chastity, and innocence. A white lie is better than a Black lie. The most degenerate member of a family is the Black sheep, not the white sheep. Ossie Davis has suggested that maybe the English language should be reconstructed so that teachers will not be forced to teach the Negro child 60 ways to despise himself and thereby perpetuate his false sense of inferiority, and the white child 134 ways to adore himself and thereby perpetuate his false sense of superiority. So that goes back to the mindset. In order for us to put in the collective work to bring ourselves up and elevate politically and economically and socially, we have to let go of that inferiority complex and let go of that notion that other groups are superior to us when we have the same abilities, the same skills, the same intelligence to have the same power that the other groups have, such as the whites, such as the Jews, such as the Italians and the Irish that were mentioned in the previous passage that I read. And then the next passage that I want to go to relates to ownership, this theme of ownership that DJ, the money coach, constantly and consistently emphasizes, ownership. And when we talk about Black history and the importance of ownership, DJ has brought to our attention the many Black inventors that invented many of the items that we still use to this day. And if our Black children were to learn about these inventors, all of these inventors, imagine what that can do for their development. Imagine what that can do for that inferiority complex. There wouldn't be an inferiority complex if our children were taught all of their history, all of the amazing things that our ancestors have invented. So Dr. King actually gives some commentary on history, what's given in the history books, and what is taught about Black history. And he says that the history books have almost completely ignored the contribution of the Negro in American history. And they have only served to intensify the Negro's sense of worthlessness and to augment the anachronistic doctrine of white supremacy. All too many Negroes and whites are unaware of the fact that the first American to shed blood in the revolution which freed this country from British oppression was a Black seaman named Crispus Attucks. Negroes and whites are almost totally oblivious of the fact that it was a Negro physician, Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, who performed the first successful operation on the heart in America. And that another Negro physician, Dr. Charles Drew, was largely responsible for developing the method of separating blood plasma and storing it on a large scale, a process that saved thousands of lives in World War II and has been made possible many of the important advancements in post-war medicine. As a matter of fact, as a side note, the dorm that I lived in my freshman year at college at Howard University is named after Dr. Charles Drew. History books have virtually overlooked the many Negro scientists and inventors who have enriched American life, although a few refer to George Washington Carver, whose research in agricultural products helped to revive the economy of the South when the throne of King Cotton began to totter. They ignore the contribution of Norbert Rouleau, whose invention of an evaporating pan revolutionized the process of sugar refining. How many people know that the multi-million-dollar United Shoe Machinery Company developed from the shoe lasting machine invented in the last century by a Negro from Dutch Guyana, Jan Matzle, well, I'm about to butcher this name, Mats Zegliger, I probably said that wrong, or that Granville T. Woods, an expert in electric motors, whose many patents speeded the growth and improvement of the railroads at the beginning of this century, was a Negro. So I'll stop right there on that passage, just to reemphasize that if our children was taught this history, imagine what that can do for the development and reversing the Black inferiority complex that we have, while also emphasizing ownership. Because ownership leads to power. Ownership leads to economic power. And once you reach economic power, you can leverage that to get political and social power. So this is a good place to put a pause and go to a commercial break. And then when I come back, I will wrap up this conversation on Dr. King, this reflection on Dr. King in his book, Where Do We Go From Here? By talking about protest. So I'll be right back with Nick's Knowledge and Notions. Stay tuned.
Everybody, this is DJ the Money Coach.
You just saw me give you 5 secrets to accumulating wealth in the wintertime. Secret number 1, only acquire real estate in the off season. I only acquire real estate from October to January for the past 20 years. And that has helped me create a strong 6-figure income and a 7-figure net worth. And I can teach you how to do the same thing. I'm going to help you and guarantee you how to acquire a property in the next 30 days exclusively for the first 10 people only here on the Classy Climb. I'm going to get you a $15,000 property with a 12% rate of return in the next 30 days if you're wise enough to invest in yourself. Because if you want to achieve the pom-pom lifestyle, which is plenty of money and peace of mind, then you have to learn the secrets of the wealthy. And the first rule is make your money on the acquisition, not on the sale. I'm DJ the Money Coach. Come join us on the Beaches of the World Club for the first 10 people only, exclusively. I'll see you in the webinar.
All right, and welcome back to Nick's Knowledge and Notions in Cube Science series. We are discussing the upcoming, well, we're not discussing the holiday, we're discussing Dr. King because his holiday is coming up in a couple of days. His birthday is tomorrow, if you're watching this live, but we observe the federal holiday on Monday. And the best way to know Dr. King is to read his books and to read what he actually wrote, because the media and our educational system gives us a sanitized version of Dr. King. So from here, I want to discuss protest. So Dr. King has been critical of rioting, because at the time of his death, or prior to his death, you know, the nation experienced, you know, the riots in 1965. And we also hear a lot of criticism of Dr. King and his protests, his nonviolent protests, in regards to marching. You know, and there continues to be a criticism of marching. So we're going to go into what Dr. King says about protest. And I will draw your attention to, we're still in the Black Power chapter. So much of what Dr. King wrote in this book focused on Black Power, right? So we're still in chapter 2, dealing with Black Power. So I'll take it from the top of this paragraph. The futility of violence in the struggle for racial justice has been tragically etched in all recent Negro riots. There is something painfully sad about a riot. One sees screaming youngsters and angry adults fighting hopelessly and aimlessly against impossible odds. Deep down within them, you perceive a desire for self-destruction, a suicide longing. Occasionally, Negroes contend that the 1965 Watts riot and the other riots in various cities represented effective civil rights action. But those who express this view always end up with stumbling words when asked what concrete gains have been won as a result. At best, the riots have produced a little additional anti-poverty money allotted by frightened government officials and a few water sprinklers to cool the children of the ghettos. It is something like improving the food in the prison while the people remain securely incarcerated behind bars. Nowhere have the riots won any concrete improvement, such as have the organized protest demonstrations. Does this sound familiar to you? Did we recently experience, some riots, some rioting in our recent time? Maybe during 2020? You have to ask yourself about the purpose of these riots and what these riots achieved. According to Dr. King, in this passage that I just read, there was no real progress or no real achievement or no real victory from or no significant, I won't say real, I'll say there was no significant victory from these riots. There were a little bit of gains well, I don't know if I could really call them gains, but concessions of things given to the people to quiet the riots, to quell the riots. So anti-poverty money, just a little bit of anti-poverty money, not enough to fully eradicate poverty or redistribute the power or the resources. Just based on the government being scared of what Black people are going to do. That's what that commission was about. I forgot the name of that commission. That commission right after the riots. Man, I should remember the name of that commission, but I can't remember it right now. I have to look it up. But that commission was brought together to figure out why the Black people are upset, or why Negro was a term that was used during that time. Why are the Negroes upset? Why are they rioting? So they brought together this commission to figure that out. But these weren't significant changes. And we can see that in 2020 with the I won't say the removal of the statues, but the building of certain statues and monuments, these symbolic victories, faces being put on currency. This is the type of progress that Dr. King was talking about, that quote unquote progress that Dr. King was referring to back in the late 60s that we can kind of see now. So continuing on about protest. When we get into chapter 3, racism and white backlash, Dr. King is very critical of the church and the role of the church. And he's critical of both the white church and the Black church. So this is what he says about the church, and then we'll return to what he said about economics and protest. He says, yet no one observing the history of the church in America can deny the shameful fact that it has been an accomplice in structuring racism into the architecture of American society. The church, by and large, sanctioned slavery and surrounded it with the halo of moral respectability. It also cast the mantle of its sanctity over the system of segregation. And Dr. King goes on to say that it has too often blessed the status quo that needed to be blasted. Too often blessed the status quo that needed to be blasted and reassured a social order that needed to be reformed. So the church must acknowledge its guilt, its weak and vacillating witness, its all too frequent failure to obey the call to servanthood. Today, the judgment of God is upon the church for its failure to be true to its mission. If the church does not recapture its prophetic zeal, it will become an irrelevant social club without moral or spiritual authority. Let me say that again. If the church does not recapture its prophetic zeal, it will become an irrelevant social club without moral or spiritual authority. And that's a prophetic statement because this day and age, a lot of our churches, if we're talking about Black people and Black churches, they have merely become a social club without a moral or spiritual authority. Another important commentary that Dr. King gives in this book deals with the class divisions within the Black race, the divisions between the lower class and middle class Blacks, and how there should be unification between those classes, and how middle class Blacks, that got a little bit of education and got high paying or decent paying jobs should not forget where they come from. It is especially important for the Negro middle class to join this action program. To say that all too many members of the Negro middle class have been detached spectators rather than involved participants in the great drama of social change taking place on the stage of American history is not to overlook the unswerving dedication and unselfish service of some. But many middle-class Negroes have forgotten their roots and are more concerned about conspicuous consumption than about the cause of justice. Instead, they seek to sit in some serene and passionless realm of isolation, untouched and unmoved by the agonies and struggles of their unprivileged brothers. This kind of selfish detachment has caused the masses of Negroes to feel alienated, not only from white society, but also from the Negro middle class. They feel that the average middle class Negro has no concern for their plight. The feeling is often corroborated by the hard facts of experience. How many Negroes who have achieved educational and economic security have forgotten that they are where they are because of the support of faceless, unlettered, and unheralded Negroes who did ordinary jobs in an extraordinary way? How many successful Negroes have forgotten that uneducated and poverty-stricken mothers and fathers often worked until their eyebrows were scorched and their hands bruised so that their children could get an education? For any middle-class Negro to forget the masses is an act not only of neglect, but of shameful ingratitude. It is time for the Negro haves to join hands with the Negro have-nots and with compassion journey into that other country of hurt and denial. It is time for the Negro middle class to rise up from its stool of indifference, to retreat from its flight into unreality, and to bring its full resources, its heart, its mind, and its checkbook to aid of the less fortunate brother. The relatively privileged Negro will never be what he ought to be until the unprivileged Negro is what he ought to be. The salvation of the Negro middle class is ultimately dependent upon the salvation of the Negro masses. So, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. But I'll also point out that, Dr. King himself, he was a part of the Negro middle class. I would say he's a part of the Negro middle class, although he probably didn't make as much money as he could have, because he could have got himself a cozy pastoral position in the church, but he decided to join the movement, but nevertheless, Dr. King, was highly educated. He was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. There was also it's also been reported, that he was a member of Sigma Pi Phi, also the Boule. But he was critical of the very group that he was a member of. Let's see what else. Dr. King was also, I think this is wait a minute, 139. Okay, yep, 139. That was a page that I just read. All right, so we'll close out the last passage that I'll draw your attention to. That's also prophetic and very relevant to the time we're living in. Is Dr. King's commentary on Black leadership, because we have, as time went on, we saw more Black people in these positions, in these political positions. We saw more Black mayors. We saw more Black Congress people. We've even had a Black president, a few years ago. So let's see what Dr. King says about Black leadership. Oh, before that, I can't forget about, I would be remiss if I did not mention that quote that he said about conspicuous consumption. Man, so not only does conspicuous consumption pull us away from, being overly concerned with conspicuous consumption, pull us away from the cause of justice, but it's also not fiscally responsible. Conspicuous consumption puts you in debt, and debt is slavery. And 7 Spheres of Money, we always emphasize the importance of becoming debt-free in order to become financially free in achieving that pom-pom lifestyle. So I just had to throw that in there. But this last passage that I want to draw your attention to, I'll get into that about Black leadership. The majority of Negro political leaders do not ascend to prominence on the shoulders of mass support. Although genuinely popular leaders are now emerging, most are selected by white leadership, elevated to position, supplied with resources, and inevitably subjected to white control. Whew, my goodness. Man, I got to read that one again. Although genuinely popular leaders are now emerging, most are selected by white leadership, elevated to position, supplied with resources, and inevitably subjected to white control. My goodness. The mass of Negroes nurtures a healthy suspicion toward these manufactured leaders. Wow, Dr. King called these I'm gonna use a DJ the Money Coach quote and say special Negroes. Dr. King called these special Negroes manufactured leaders. Whoa, drop a mic on that one. Experience tells them that color is the chief argument their leaders are offering to induce loyalty and solidarity. Man, the Negro politician they know spends little time in persuading them that he embodies personal integrity, commitment, and ability. He offers few programs and less service. My goodness, man. Dr. King was coming with the fire back in 68, 67, and 68. Tragically, he is in too many respects not a fighter for a new life, but a figurehead of the old one. Hence, very few Negro political leaders are impressive or illustrious to their constituents. They enjoy only limited loyalty and qualified support. Let's see what else. This relationship in turn hampers the Negro leader in bargaining with genuine strength and independent firmness with white party leaders. The whites are all too well aware of his impotence and his remoteness from his constituents, and they deal with him as a powerless subordinate. Let me read that again. The whites are all too well aware of his impotence and his remoteness from his constituents, and they deal with him as a powerless subordinate. He is accorded a measure of dignity and personal respect, but not political power. And not economic power either. So I wanted to find, I missed the passage about the economic protests. I want to see if I want to find that, but just dwell on that Black leadership passage for a few minutes while I find the economic protest passage. I had to jump back because I thought I missed it, but I found it. I actually skipped that page. But not much needs to be said about Black leadership. Just look at the Black leadership we have now and see if that applies to them. So the SCLC, that's the Southern Christian Leadership Coalition, if I said that acronym correctly. Well, actually, no, let's back up a little bit. So this is this is the last part. This is the last part right here, and then we'll close out. So Dr. King says this about protest. So this is going back to the marches and what I read earlier about the riots. Discrimination is not the whole answer. We allowed ourselves to accept middle-class prejudices toward the labor movement. Yet this is one of those fields in which higher education is not a requirement for high office. The other economic lever available to the Negro is as a consumer. Okay, here we go. This is the good part right here. This is the good part right here. Consumerism and buying power that I read earlier. As long ago as 1932, in his book Moral Man and Immoral Society, Reinhold Niebuhr pointed out that boycotts against banks, which discriminate against Negroes in quantity credit, against stores which refuse to employ Negroes while serving Negro trade, and against public service corporations which practice racial discrimination, would undoubtedly be crowned with some measurable success. These words have proved to be prophetic, for we have been seeing the success of this approach in the last few years. So this was written in 1968. Do you think that these words prove to be prophetic in 2022? Do you think that we can see some success to this approach in 2022? SCLC has pioneered in developing mass boycott movements in a frontal attack on discrimination. Our dramatic demonstrations tended to obscure the role of the boycott in cities such as Birmingham. It was not the marching alone that brought about integration of public facilities in 1963. Let me say that again. It was not the marching alone that brought about integration of public facilities in 1963. Now, before I read the next sentence, there's debates about whether integration was good or bad for Black people. That's neither here nor there. This is about, I just want to focus on the effects of the protest and its emphasis on economics. So marching alone didn't bring about their desired goal. We'll say that their desired goal was integration. Whether integration was good or not, that's another conversation, but their goal was integration and they achieved their goal. The downtown business establishments suffered for weeks under our almost unbelievably effective boycott. The significant percentage of their sales that vanished, the 98% of their Negro customers who stayed home, educated them forcefully to the dignity of the Negro as a consumer. So, let me read one more paragraph. Later, we crystallized our experiences in Birmingham and elsewhere and developed a department in SCLC called Operation Breadbasket. This has as its primary aim the securing of more and better jobs for the Negro people. It calls on the Negro community to support those businesses that will give a fair share of jobs to Negroes and to withdraw its support from those businesses that have discriminatory policies. The key word in Operation Breadbasket is respect. It says in substance, if you respect my dollars, you must respect my person. If you respect my quantitative support, then you must respect the quality of my job and my basic material needs. So I'm going to go ahead and close the book on that note. And we're going to go ahead and close out. So in 2022, we can take these prophetic lessons to the next level. So we can do more than just boycott establishments that don't respect our personhood. We have witnessed the explosion of entrepreneurship, Black entrepreneurship. It's exploded to the extent that it's trendy now to be an entrepreneur. But even in the midst of that trend, we have several businesses, a lot more businesses now than we did in the past. So we don't even have to necessarily boycott certain white establishments, or not just white establishments. We get disrespected in Asian communities and Indian communities, especially in the hood. So boycotting and removing our dollars is one method, but with the explosion of entrepreneurship, we can take our business and our dollars to businesses that are run by people who look like us. And we can also employ people who look like us. And this is what the STEAM program is all about: science, technology, entrepreneurship, access, mentorship, and membership, and also ownership. So this is the message. These passages that I read to you on this program, these are the messages that Dr. King wrote toward the end of his life. Of course, just like any human being, Dr. King evolved in his consciousness. He evolved in his consciousness. He evolved in his perspective on race and economics. And, all of us evolve, over time. So what Dr. King said in the early 60s or the late 50s isn't necessarily the same thing as what he wrote about or what he gave commentary on, or his perspectives in the late 60s. So maybe in another program, I will go into the comparison or some other writings of Dr. King. I had another book from Dr. King, Why We Can't Wait, which I couldn't find on my bookshelf. Maybe I loaned it out. Maybe it's in another place. But this has been a discussion on where do we go from here? Chaos of Community, the last book published by Dr. Martin Luther King before he passed away. And the passages that I read are passages that the school textbooks don't show you. These are perspectives. This is commentary that the mainstream media doesn't tell you about Dr. King. They're mainly focused on the sanitized version of Dr. King, the I Have a Dream Dr. King. So by getting a proper perspective and the proper understanding and the proper education of who Dr. King really was, that can empower us. That can aid us in reversing the Black inferiority that Dr. King addressed. That can aid us in pushing forth our economic and our financial empowerment and freedom that we always emphasize here on the 7 Spheres of Money platform. And that essentially contributes to the pom-pom lifestyle, which deals with freedom, financial freedom, freedom of your mind. So I'm just going on and on right now. So we're just going to go ahead and close out. You have been watching Nick's Knowledge and Notions. I hope you all got something out of this discussion on Dr. King, and you go and read some of what Dr. King wrote. We will be working on Dr. King's Dr. King's holiday, helping people to become financially free. We will be doing our master classes next week, showing the people how we can pool our resources to achieve economic freedom on a collective. So we coach people one-on-one for their personal, individual financial freedom, but we're also into that cooperative economics and pooling our resources so we can elevate collectively. And DJ the Money Coach, he'll be helping people this weekend on Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. He'll be helping people on the Dr. Martin Luther King holiday, helping people to become financially free and achieve that pom-pom lifestyle. And if you're not plugged into the system, and if DJ the Money Coach isn't helping you, he can help you. All you have to do is reach out to us. Our contact information is on the screen. It's in the description. And if you want to start working with us, you can go back to the basics. And back to the basics are consumer debt freedom, boosting your credit score, and becoming a certified entrepreneur so we can live Dr. King's economic dream. And then once we lay that foundation, the next level is investment opportunities so we can have that ownership, that access to ownership. So thank you for joining us, or thank you for joining me tonight on Nick's Knowledge and Notions. If you enjoyed this program, like the video, share it, and subscribe so you can get the notifications whenever we go live or whenever we have a program, because we're delivering this real talk. And I wish everyone a pom-pom lifestyle. That's plenty of money, peace of mind. And I want you to come join us on the beaches of the World Club. And your beach may not be next to sand or water, but your beach is where you find your personal freedom, your economic freedom, your financial freedom, and your tranquility. So until the next episode of Nick's Knowledge and Notions, take care, and we love you. Peace.
Hey everybody, this is DJ the Money Coach. You just saw me give you 5 secrets to accumulating wealth in the wintertime. Secret number 1, only acquire real estate in the off season. I only acquire real estate from October to January for the past 20 years, and that has helped me create a strong 6-figure income and a 7-figure net worth. And I can teach you how to do the same thing. I'm going to help you and guarantee you how to acquire a property in the next 30 days exclusively for the first 10 people only here on the Classy Climb. I'm going to get you a $15,000 property with a 12% rate of return in the next 30 days if you're wise enough to invest in yourself. Because if you want to achieve the pom-pom lifestyle, which is plenty of money and peace of mind, then you have to learn the secrets of the wealthy. And the first rule is make your money on the acquisition, not on the sale. I'm DJ the Money Coach. Come join us on the beaches of the World Club for the first 10 people only, exclusively. I'll see you in the webinar. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is DJ the Money Coach in my hometown of Chicago. And right behind me, freedom ain't free. You got to demand justice. You know what justice is? It's financial independence, consumer debt freedom, and it's the pom-pom lifestyle. So come join us on the beaches of the World Club, and let's go all around the world and be free. 100% me, and not a second-rate duplication of somebody else. I'm DJ the Money Coach. Come join us in the pom-pom lifestyle. I'll see you soon.
Hello, my name is Crystal Jones, and I'm in the healthcare field. I would like to take the opportunity to thank Erica Williams and DJ the Money Coach, along with his team, for providing valuable gems to help me get on a successful financial path. And yes, I am ready for that pom pom lifestyle. Have a good
So I just got off my consultation with DJ, the money coach. The reason I decided to get up with DJ was because I saw him on a couple different platforms, and he seemed like he really knew what he was talking about, and some of the things he said resonated with me, and that was confirmed once I got on the phone with him. And about 45 minutes, he gave me enough gems, enough game to probably save me thousands of dollars because I was leaving so much money on the table from tax advantages, business structure, so on and so forth. So if you're looking for somebody that has experience, if you're looking for somebody that actually can do what they say they can do, I would advise you to rock out with DJ the Money Coach. DJ, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for everything.